Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. I think for people who want to get into hobby gaming, there are two things that pose a barrier to entry and give people pause for concern. The first is assembling miniatures, and that's something that I've talked about in the past and isn't really anything to be scared of, as long as you've got a few essential tools like a pair of snips and the right kind of glue for the job, and obviously a little bit of patience. But the bigger thing is painting miniatures, and that's something that people sort of look at, and they're going to look at things like the Golden Demon entries and things like that and say, well, I'm never going to be able to do that, I'm not even going to try. I've been painting miniatures for 30 years now, if not longer, and yeah, I'm never going to be entering in any Golden Demon competitions. I paint to a level that I am happy with, and to have things painted on the table. And I think for most people that should be their aim. Just paint to a standard that you're happy with. But it can be a little bit of a daunting prospect to get into painting. So I thought I'd quickly put together this video, which is from me and my experience, things that I have learned to do to keep me motivated and to keep me painting. Because I am a father. I've got two children. I have a wife, and I have a job, and I have a mortgage, and I have a family, and it all takes time, and finding time amongst everything else to paint sometimes seems impossible. And it's very easy to stop. And it's very easy to pack your paints away and not do anything. So I just thought I'd put this video together really, and just chat for a little bit. I think the first thing is, there's two camps, I guess, of thought on this. You when you get into the hobby, you either settle for the fact that sometimes you're going to be playing with unpainted miniatures, or you set yourself the target of saying you're not going to play until you've painted the miniatures. If you're going with the case of you've told yourself you're not going to play the game until you've painted the miniatures, that the aim there is you're giving yourself the motivation to plough through that painting to get it finished. But if you do that, don't buy too much at once. Don't go out and buy yourself a 3,000 point Age of Sigmar army, because you will never get it to the table. Just keep it small, keep buying sections, buy a starter box and try and get a couple of units painted up and play with those. Get yourself a hero and a unit for each side that you want to have duking it out, and go with that. I tend to go with the other direction. I tend to go with the basis of I play unpainted, because I have a lot of miniatures and a lot of games, and you can die tomorrow. I'd rather glue all my models together and get them to the table and play with them as they are, and then just paint them as I can. Now that does mean that you lose that sense of motivation of I need to get this unit painted so I can get it to the table, but at the same time it does mean that you actually can enjoy using your miniatures that you've spent a lot of money on. So I tend to go with playing unpainted, and if I didn't, I just wouldn't play. I wouldn't play at all. Once you actually get to the point where you do want to paint, I would recommend using spray primers. I use basically most of the stuff that I use at the moment is army paint or war paints, just because I managed to buy a great big box of them for super cheap. But I do have some Games Workshop paints. I've got some old Games Workshop paints, and I think there's a few products that I think everybody should have, like Agrax Earthshade and Nuln Oil. But yeah, get some spray primer. Get coloured spray primer. It's really good. For example, Army Painter do a gunmetal primer, which undercoats everything in the metal, in a metal prime. That just saves so much time. I used that recently to spray some Daleks, some Cybermen, some Cybermats, some scenery. I chucked Slambo in there as well. In fact, Slambo's on my desk at the moment because he's my current project. There he is. So yeah, so I had all of those things all at once and just hit them all with the spray primer all at the same time, and that does a couple of things. One, obviously, it saves a lot of time with preparing your miniatures, but also it gets you almost table ready for a lot of things. I mean, particularly with things like Cybermen, which are metal men. I could have, after priming them with the silver primer, I could have just hit them with an ink wash to bring out their details, and they immediately look 100 times better than they did before, and effectively you can get them to the table and you're playing painted, which is great. So spray primer, I think, is a cool thing to have, and yeah, spray prime as much as you can at once, I would say, because what you don't want to be in a situation of is you finish your current painting project and you've got nothing else ready. Because what will always happen is you'll finish your current painting project at about 11 o'clock at night, having drank too many cups of coffee, and you're thinking, I want to paint something else, but you haven't got anything else because you haven't primed anything else. And if you're using spray primer, that's not something that you're going to be doing in your lounge. You need to go out to your garage or your back garden or something. You don't want to be out at 11 o'clock at night with aerosol cans. The neighbours are going to complain. They're going to think you're up to no good. So always make sure... well, I always like to make sure I've got something ready. Like I said, I've recently conveyor belt produced Daleks, Cybermen, Cybermats, straight onto Slambo. After Slambo, I've got some scenery that was primed at the same time that I'll be moving on to those, using a really big brush. Big brushes for scenery. So yeah, so always, I would say, always prime as much as you can. Always have something ready. Like I say, I've got Slambo here, so. He's something that I've had him assembled for ages, and I just stuck him in the mix, and now I'm painting him. It wasn't ever intended to be my next project. I've got some aliens and things I want to paint for Alien vs Predator, but Slambo was there, and the aliens weren't primed, which is exactly my point. The next thing, don't take down your paint station unless you really have to. I've got a wooden paint station with handles that I can move around from location to location, and where possible I leave it set up. I leave it set up with the paints out and the miniatures ready to go. So, because I work from home, but every now and again it'd be like, it's I'll take a lunch break. I've got 15 minutes before I have to get back to actually making some money. So I've got my paint station set up. I can hit a coat of ink over a load of models, or I can do a dry brush or something like that. And those 15 minutes here and there, they add up, and very, very quickly, after a couple of days, you'll see you've got stuff done. And it's very motivational to see how your miniatures are progressing each time, just with those little bits of time that all add up. As an example, when Dreadfleet came out, Games Workshop's Dreadfleet, I told myself, I used the other method. I said, I'm not going to play Dreadfleet until I've painted it all. And I set up my paint station in my spare room. At the time I had a spare room because it was before I had kids. And I painted and painted, and every day I was in there painting, and I got all the scenery painted, and I got about halfway through the ships. And then my wife said, oh, my friend is going to stay over tonight. Can you pack your paint station away? I packed my paint station away so that the spare room could become a guest room for the evening. And it was over a year before that paint station came back out. Stuff just happened, and I didn't paint for almost a year. And Dreadfleet didn't get played properly for a very long time. So, where possible, this is my paint station, and it stays out somewhere. I will move it from location to location. Even if we need a space, I'll just sort of tuck it out the way, but still leave it set up if possible. Sometimes you have to put it away. If you do put it away, make sure you get it out again as quickly as possible. But there we go. And the next thing is, this is very important for me because I'm a rubbish painter. But don't be a perfectionist, at least not straight away. I think a lot of people, like I say, will look at Games Workshop's White Dwarf magazine. They will see the quality of the paintwork in there, and they will say, well, my painting's not that good. and no one's is when they start, unless you've got just an obscene amount of talent, in which case I hate you. But even Games Workshop appreciates the fact that new people aren't going to be painting to that quality, and you will notice that a lot of the Games Workshop paint guides, they don't produce to the same quality that you see actually in their magazine, because obviously you don't buy a White Dwarf magazine to see the kind of paint jobs that you can do yourself. You want to see the best of the best in that magazine, but you have to remember that they're the best of the best. I just paint to the level that I'm happy with, and I rely very heavily on ink washes and dry brushing, and these are techniques that I think people really need to learn. It's amazing how you can take a model that's grey plastic, block out the main colours, put one colour on a coat, one colour on the legs, one colour on the feet, one colour on the face, and then just hit those colours with a wash of some description, and the wash will run into those details, and everything will pop. And then if you've got some fur or something on that model, just a dry brush of fur colour over the top, and it will pick out those highlights on the top, and it looks fantastic. And yes, you're not going to be winning a Golden Demon Award with it, but it will look brilliant on the table. It will look a million times better than grey plastic, and it doesn't have to take a long time to get those models done that way. Like I said, I've still got my Cybermen here because they need to be protective coated. These guys are just, they're metal ink wash, metal highlight, and I'm going to do a similar sort of a thing with Slambo, but with a little bit more detail. Once you've got those basic concepts down, you've got models that look great, that look tabletop quality, a lot of people say. You can always go back to a model later on and add some more paint. If you later on learn a new skill and you think to yourself, well, that first unit of goblins that I painted look rubbish now, you can go back and you can add in that extra highlight stage, or you can add in that extra wash to bring out the next layer of detailing or whatever it is. But models don't have to be finished just because you say, well, I'm done for now. But to be honest, you're gonna constantly get better, and that's all there is to it, really. The hardest thing is staying motivated. The hardest thing is finding the time. You just set yourself a challenge to paint to a quality that you are happy with, and that basically means being neat and consistent and just keep going. This is my personal opinions. I'm sure there are painters out in the world who disagree, who say you don't want to be doing this, you don't want to be doing that, you need to learn these particular techniques. I find that I want to do things quickly and effectively, because I want painted miniatures on the board, but more important to me is playing the game. Playing the game is what it's all about for me. So I will spend more detail on hero figures, and that's an important thing as well. Don't lavish as much attention on your rank and file troops as you do on your heroes. Heroes are more fun to paint anyway, and I tend to find it's a good idea as well that if you're going to have to slog through a unit of 40 rat men or something, have a cool model waiting as motivation for, once you've slogged through that unit of, don't do all your foot troops one after the other, you go mad. Or if you're painting your zombie-side zombies, paint a bunch of zombies, then paint one of the heroes, then go back and paint some more zombies. Break it up, don't get into doing it purely mechanically, and always have something that you're really excited about painting next in the queue. Always have something you think, well, as soon as I've got this last unit of Slan done, I'm onto this hero character, and I'm really looking forward to painting this Tyrannosaurus, whatever it is. That's all I can say, really. And like I say, these are just methods that I have for being very busy, having that time. And I don't know. Other people will find other methods, and some people will say that my methods are wrong, but they work for me. And hopefully they might work for somebody else who wants to have a go. And that's it from me for now. I think I've been talking for quite long enough while you've been staring at this paint splodge. Bye bye everybody. Bye bye.